Excellencies, distinguished guests, honorables, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you this morning to this high-level side event of the African Development Bank. From pledges to plates, financing Africa's agriculture, all right, excuse me, 1 second. We have a technical glitch. Alors, pour entendre, on me dit qu'il faut mettre les casques, même en français, parce qu'on va bientôt couper la retransmission du micro. Il y a une séance juste à côté. So they are telling me that if you want to listen to the panel and events happening here, you will have to wear the headphones, even in French, because there will be no song coming from this microphone publicly. So you will have to have your headphones to hear what I say and what our distinguished panelists will say. Yeah, please wear your headphones, even for French. This microphone is going to be cut and all song will be retransmitted in the microphones. Mrs. Jara is doing rounds and helping you wear your headphones. Please let me know if your headphone is not working. Let us know if your headphone is not working. There are Mrs. Jara. Please raise your hand if your headphone isn't working. Levez votre main si votre casque ne marche pas. Sorting this real quick. Mrs. Jara is coming right to you. Test, test, headphones. Headphones test. Headphones test. It's working now. Still not working? Working now? Working? Okay. Headphone test, headphone test. Please let me know if your headphone isn't working. Raise your hand if it's not working. Not working. Not working as well. Levez votre main si votre casque ne retransmet pas le son. Raise your hand if your headphone isn't working. The technical agents are coming right to you. All good? All good now? All good? All good now? All right. So I'll do it again. Assalamu alaikum. Bonjour, good morning. My name is Saran Kabawage, and I will be your moderator for this high-level panel. Excellencies, honorables, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with honor and pleasure to welcome you to this high-level side event organized by the African Bank of Development. From pledges to place, financing Africa's agriculture and food systems. 2 years ago at the Dakar Summit, African leaders, development partners, and the private sector committed with ambition and urgency to make food sovereignty and resilience a reality in Africa. We saw pledges of more than 30 billion US dollars. But most importantly, we witnessed the birth of delivery compacts, country-led, homegrown pathways designed to transform and develop our food systems, from farms to markets, from communities to global stages. Today is about accountability and momentum. It is about moving from promises to measurable impact, ensuring every dollar committed, every partnership forged, translate into more food on African tables, better livelihoods for our farmers, and stronger climate-resilient economies. As we gather today in Dakar, the symbolic heart of this journey, we are reminded that this is not about agriculture. It is about sovereignty, dignity, and Africa's rightful place in shaping its own future. With that, let us begin by presenting the Feed Africa strategy and the key achievements since Dakar 2 through our opening video. Avec la complicité de la régie.
Across
Technical glitch. Give us 1 minute. Okay. We will soon welcome Mr. Mohamed Sharif, the Director General of IFDB West Africa, for his opening remarks. A round of applause for him, please.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, development partners, invited guests, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. 2 years ago, in this beautiful city of Dakar, during the Feed Africa Summit, Food Sovereignty and Resilience Summit, popularly known as Dakar 2, history was made. African leaders gathered here not to deliberate, but to act. The mission was urgent. The mission was bold. The mission was not less than to achieve food sovereignty for Africa. That summit was not just another meeting. It was a movement. 34 heads of state and government sat down side by side with farmers, youth, development partners, and the private sector entities to chart a new framework for the transformation of the continent's agriculture and food systems. Together,
Ensemble, ils ont déclaré que l'Afrique devait subvenir à ses propres besoins alimentaires. Ensemble, ils ont élevé l'agriculture au rang de question de souveraineté, de sécurité, de fierté continentale et de survie. Ce sommet a donné naissance à ce qui est désormais connu sous le nom de Déclaration de Dakar II, dont le cœur était constitué de pactes nationaux pour l'alimentation et l'agriculture, des plans d'investissement nationaux visant à transformer de manière résiliente l'agriculture et les systèmes alimentaires du continent. Il ne s'agissait pas de simples mots sur le papier, il s'agissait d'engagements soutenus par des mécanismes et des outils de financement ancrés dans une volonté politique solide et conçus pour produire des résultats et des impacts à grande échelle. Et en effet, les résultats sont désormais évidents. Plus de 30 milliards de dollars américains ont été mobilisés pour mettre en œuvre ces accords. La Banque africaine de développement, pour sa part, s'est engagée à verser 10 milliards de dollars américains et nous tenons nos promesses. Nous avons déjà approuvé près de 5 milliards de dollars américains pour 30 pays. Irrigation en Éthiopie, soutien à la mécanisation au Ghana, renforcement des systèmes semenciers au Rwanda, amélioration des capacités de transformation agricole au Kenya et renforcement de la résilience au Mozambique et au Malawi respectivement. Mais le financement seul ne suffit pas. Nous savions que nous devions débloquer des investissements privés à grande échelle. C'est pourquoi la banque a lancé une facilité de 500 millions de dollars américains pour mobiliser 10 milliards de dollars supplémentaires sous forme de financement mixte pour les PME agricoles et les petits exploitants agricoles à travers le continent. Cela permet d'élargir l'accès au crédit, de créer des opportunités pour l'agro-industrie et d'autonomiser les femmes et les jeunes qui, pendant trop longtemps, ont été laissés pour compte par plusieurs instruments de développement. Et permettez-moi de m'arrêter ici, car l'histoire de la souveraineté alimentaire de l'Afrique est avant tout celle de sa jeunesse. 70% de notre population a moins de 35 ans. Ils ne sont pas l'avenir, ils sont le présent. Et ils sont les moteurs de la transformation que nous observons. Nous entendrons les décideurs politiques qui mènent les efforts de mise en œuvre. Nous dialoguerons avec les partenaires qui mobilisent des financements et des technologies. Nous écouterons le secteur privé, dont les investissements sont essentiels pour soutenir les progrès. Et ensemble, nous tracerons la prochaine étape de ce parcours, des promesses aux assiettes. Mais ne vous y trompez pas, il ne s'agit pas seulement d'avoir plus de nourriture, il s'agit davantage de souveraineté alimentaire, il s'agit de résilience, il s'agit de dignité, il s'agit de veiller à ce qu'aucun enfant en Afrique ne se couche le ventre vide. Il s'agit de faire de l'agriculture un moyen de sortir de la pauvreté et du manque. Il s'agit de positionner l'Afrique, non seulement pour qu'elle puisse se nourrir elle-même, mais aussi pour qu'elle puisse aider à nourrir le monde entier. Il y a 2 ans, dans cette ville de Dakar, nous avons semé des graines. Aujourd'hui, nous voyons les premiers fruits de cet effort. Mais la récolte n'est pas encore terminée. Le moment est venu de prendre des mesures plus durables. Il faut maintenir et soutenir cette dynamique. Et avec les jeunes Africains dynamiques au centre, je ne doute pas que l'Afrique réalisera pleinement son potentiel. Merci beaucoup et que Dieu vous bénisse. Si percutant, M. Mohamed Cherif, directeur général de la BAD d'Afrique de l'Ouest. Maintenant, nous allons projeter la vidéo. La stratégie Nourrir l'Afrique et les réalisations principales depuis Dakar 2. C'est une vidéo d'ouverture.
Over 3 days, they designed 41 presidential boardrooms and across Africa, a transformation is underway. All over the continent, the promise of food sovereignty is becoming a tangible reality. In January 2023, 34 heads of state and government gathered in Dakar, Senegal, for the historic Dakar 2 summit. Over 3 days, they designed 41 presidential boardrooms and committed to food and agriculture delivery compact that would reshape the future of Africa's food systems. Their ambition was bold: dedicate at least 10% of national budgets to agriculture and unlock new investments for climate-smart, resilient and inclusive food systems. Since Dakar 2, development partners and government have mobilized over $30 billion. The African Development Bank alone committed $10 billion in 5 years to support Dakar 2 operations. To date, 144 post-Dakar 2 operations with a total value of $4.94 billion have been approved from 2023 to July 2025. These operations are across 33 African countries supporting Africa's food systems transformation. Delivery councils are driving implementation at the highest political level. Agro-industrial processing zones are taking shape, and technology transfer programs are reaching millions of farmers. The Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation Program, TAT, is on track to reach 40 million farmers and increase food output by 100 million tons by 2025. At the Smallholder Finance Conference held earlier this year, the African Development Bank unveiled a $500 million catalytic financing facility aimed at unlocking up to $10 billion in agriculture finance for smallholder farmers and agribusinesses. Post-Dakar 2 projects are delivering on the ground. In Senegal, the Food Security Support Project, Hazal Lumakaf Project, funded by Global Agriculture Food Security Program and implemented by the African Development Bank significantly improved food security and rural livelihoods in Senegal's Louga, Matam, and Kaffrine regions. Through investments in irrigation, recognized as a model initiative, it helped
defaral barrage biñ defaree barrage bi ba pare kenn ku nekk man damaa jël dem def ci sama parcelle di ci bay ceeb maak samay morom kenn ku ne di bay sa ceeb li may góob ci ceeb maa ngi ciy sant yàlla bu baax ndax jàppale na ma ci sama njaboot maa ngi ciy dundal sama njaboot mu jàppale ma ci wàllu njël itam mu ma ciy jàppale ci bayam ceeb.
This is Africa in action, firmly committed to deliver on its promise of food sovereignty by 2030. Let's work together to turn promises into concrete, lasting actions.
Making a difference.
Apporter des changements et faire la différence. C'est un message très percutant, tel que présenté par M. Chérif. Il nous a rappelé la vision et les réalisations depuis Dakar 2. Et dans cette vidéo, nous avons non seulement les engagements qui ont été pris, mais également les progrès réalisés et en cours de réalisation. Des progrès qui montrent qu'il est possible de passer des promesses à des actions concrètes. Maintenant, je ne suis pas sûre que nos panélistes sont en place, sont déjà arrivés pour que l'on puisse lancer les travaux.
We will now start the panel number 1.
Nous allons aborder le premier panel et nous allons inviter les panélistes les uns après les autres.
Excuse me 1 minute. So, we now turn into the...
Nous allons passer au premier panel qui réunira les ministres, les gouverneurs qui sont à l'avant-garde de la transformation agricole en Afrique. Ils vont nous informer des progrès réalisés dans les pays, des leçons apprises et des opportunités à saisir. Permettez-moi de présenter nos panélistes sous vos applaudissements. Son Excellence, Madame Oumar Namadi, gouverneur de l'État de Jigawa du Nigeria.
Now presenting...
Et l'honorable Henri Moussa Kapka, ministre de l'Agriculture et de la Sécurité alimentaire de la Sierra Leone. Et le représentant du ministre de l'Agriculture et des Ressources animales du Rwanda, Dr Sibou Kare Silver, coordinateur des systèmes naturels au Rwanda. Ils auront 5 minutes pour leurs interventions. Ensuite, nous ouvrirons les débats pour des questions qui seraient posées par l'assistance.
Thank you very much for your...
Passons au Nigeria. L'État de Jigawa a été reconnu comme un panier de production. Alors, vous êtes la épine dorsale de votre gouvernement. Comment votre administration s'assure que vous êtes mieux, que les agriculteurs sont mieux intégrés dans le marché? Nous avons appris que des projets ont été mis en place pour construire des routes, connecter les agriculteurs au marché. Pouvez-vous partager avec nous les leçons permettant à l'État de Jigawa de positionner ses producteurs afin qu'ils soient plus compétitifs et résilients sur les marchés nationaux et régionaux? Et deuxièmement, compte tenu de la collaboration de votre État avec les partenaires de développement, notamment la BAD, comment ces partenariats vous aident-ils à passer des interventions d'urgence, telles que la Facilité africaine de production alimentaire d'urgence, à une transformation à long terme des systèmes alimentaires? Quelles opportunités voyez-vous pour développer l'agriculture intelligente face au climat, l'entrepreneuriat agricole des jeunes et des femmes et les solutions numériques grâce à ces collaborations? Vous avez la parole. Je vous remercie beaucoup pour ces questions. Tout d'abord, je voudrais vous dire que l'État de Jigawa est l'un des États sur les 36 du Nigeria, et c'est un État qui se trouve dans la zone 7 la plus peuplée au Nigeria. Nous avons pu accroître la production de manière très importante pour toutes les récoltes de base pendant les années passées. Et c'est un processus qui se poursuit. Non seulement la production doit s'accroître, mais il faut donc lier les agriculteurs au marché pour qu'ils soient plus productifs. Donc, il faut nous assurer que nos agriculteurs sont compétitifs. Donc, le gouvernement de l'État a mis en place un système où les produits sont récoltés et améliorés pour les rendre plus compétitifs. Cela va assurer la stabilité des prix. Et donc, le gouvernement intervient pour s'assurer que les agriculteurs tirent profit de leurs produits. De la même manière, nous essayons de voir ce que font les agriculteurs
been affected significantly by the climate change effect. Also, our collaboration with our partners will help us to introduce what we call the input system voucher system. That input voucher system will help us to distribute input easily to the farmers and also to track the activities of all the farmers. We have a full record of all our farmers, their farm holding and everything. That will help us to do a lot of things in terms when it comes to input distribution, when it comes to credit management, and so many other things. So that has really helped us to make sure that we have a full control of what is happening in the field. Again, as a result of our partnership, especially with African Development and the other partners, we are able now today to say that in Jigawa, for the first time in Nigeria, we have established what we call Jigawa State Agricultural Transformation Agency. This is an agency backed by law, and this agency has been established to drive agricultural transformation in Jigawa State. So this is a very, very good initiative, and it's something that is giving us a lot of hope that will boost our agricultural production, and we will achieve our target of both rice, all the stable crops. Because we have a target in Jigawa State that by 2030, Jigawa State will be able to produce 50% of the Nigerian rice requirement. They are used for purpose of only seed multiplication, and the state government is uptaking whatever they produce at a premium price. So it's a program that has helped to bring integrate youth and women into the production. Again, recently the state government introduced what we call 100 hectare per use per local government. We have 27 local government areas in Jigawa State, and we have instructed all the chairmen of each local government to at least clear 100 hectares of land and give it to use women and male and women so that they can grow rice or they can grow wheat. And this program now, in fact, in some local government, they have multiplied the production. Some of them do 200 hectares, and the state government intervene by drilling tube wells for the guys and also providing input for them. This program has helped to boost production in the state. So these are some of the issues we have taken to ensure that we have bring in production and we have multiply productions, and also our collaboration with partners has really helped us, especially also the issue of establishing export processing zone, agro processing zone in the state, which we are also in the process of doing that. So these are some of the steps we are taking, and these are some of the benefits that is coming through our collaboration with the partners to ensure that we have boost production and we have multiplied the production in Jigawa State. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. This was an insightful presentation about wheat, rice, and other crops. What is the most significant value chain investment Jigawa has made in the past year that changed its competitiveness?
Yeah, what we did in the first instance, you see, what we realized, the major constraint of a smallholder farmer is access to input and also access to credit. This has stifled his growth in for all the crops. So in the first instance, what we did, we brought in input in a large quantity, And this input is not that we are giving to the farmers free, because anything free is not make value. So what we did is, okay, come in, whatever you want, we give you the input, the requirement. If you are doing 1 hectare, we'll give you whatever is required for 1 hectare. If you are doing 2 hectares, and also we bring in the large scale farmers also. We all distributed this input to them on credit that you can repay after the production. Again, for during the dry season farming, we also brought in solar water farms, and we'll also drill in tube wells where it's possible, and where in the offland areas we try as much as possible to drill in industrial boreholes. So these practices has helped to drive production and helps especially the smallholder farmer. He will have input available to him, and he will have also water farm available to him, and he will pay instrumentally without putting him in a very difficult condition. This has bringing in more people into productions, bringing in more land into productions, and is scaling up production all over the state.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much. Let us now move to Sierra Leone. We will take the questions of the audience right after the discussion. Let us now move to Sierra Leone with Minister Baka. Sierra Leone, where a bold agenda has been launched under the Agriculture Delivery Compact from Dakar 2. Honorable Haka, I watched recently your video showcasing the work being done in Bongdabi. I hope I spelled it right. Could you share with us the progress made so far, particularly in raising production of key staples such as rice and cassava? What strategies, mechanization, irrigation, improved input distribution, or greater private sector engagement are you putting in place to reduce food import dependency and build a more resilient agricultural sector in Sierra Leone?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Thank you. I want
the song. Is my microphone working? Mine is working.
Can you hear me? This is better. Thank you very much. Thank you. Again, as I said, I want to thank the African Development Bank for the opportunity. The bank remains one of our strongest partners in our drive for food systems transformation in Sierra Leone. Indeed, 2 years ago, we were in this very hall with His Excellency, the President, our President, and we launched a very ambitious compact. At the moment, it was close to $1 billion. And as it so happened, it was just before the President's re-election campaign. And because he was so convinced by the conversations that were had here, the plans that were put in place, when he got re-elected, we made food systems transformation he made food systems transformation his key priority in our Feed Salon program. In that program, we were we got a lot of lessons and feedback from the compact process, and we were we didn't want to do everything. We wanted to be a little bit different in terms of other agricultural plans or food transformation plans the country had gone through and had not succeeded in the ways that we wanted to. And so prioritization was very key for us. The engagement of private sector was very key for us. Building resilience in the food system was very key for us. Having young people, youth, be both part of the means as well as improving outcomes for them as a key goal, that was also important for us. And then for us also, we wanted to do something a little bit different. In the country, for the longest time, agriculture could be seen as a political sort of sector, really, where you just give everything. So the agriculture budget will be divided by 12, the number of districts that we have at the time, you know. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. What we want to do this time is to say, in each of these geographic areas, what are the comparative advantage and competitive advantage, and what can we do there? So we identify those areas geographically and tied specific value chains to them. And what that does for us is it allows us, because we also knew that infrastructure, critical infrastructure, was a big part of the problem where we hadn't succeeded. It allowed us to say, can we channel the very limited government resources to build those critical infrastructure? So in those areas, the goal is to increase the density of roads, energy supply, water, irrigation, and all of that. And so that's the plan that we put forth that came from our engagements with the compact process. And it's been 2 years, almost going 2 years since we launched that. And I'll have to say, we've done quite a lot. And I'll go through some of the impacts that we've gotten. First, because we put forward such bold, succinct, clear-eyed vision and plan, we've been able to attract quite a lot of funding in pledges, and some of which we have actually materialized into activities on the ground. Close to about $1 billion in pledges. We have materialized over 200 million of those into active projects on the ground. And so that was key for us. You need money to be able to drive this. And the way we did that was also not only is using government budget, partner money, and the private sector. Government budget, we increased the budget from 2.2% to close to 8%. And then we really leverage the way we bring private sector in. If you're Sierra Leone, you have to be smart about how you bring in capital. And so bring in, using our limited resources to unlock private sector money was very key. So some progress, some of the value chains that we prioritized. Rice is a key one, as you mentioned. The Gondapi video that you saw is me talking about our irrigation potential in these areas where rice, when Sierra Leone exported rice in the past, it was from that area and other places. So it was me talking to investors to say, come to this location. And so there we're working with African Development Bank to put up an irrigation system for rice. And in rice right now, we have moved, at the time we launched the compact, I think we're now at 72% self-sufficiency. Part of the goal now really is to be competitive in terms of pricing with the imported rice that comes in. We have a scenario where importers are still able to bring in rice in the country and sell it cheaper than what we have. And so our goal is to be able to reduce that. And so our work with the African Development Bank, Badia, all these investments that were made, another location, both in Cambia, Tomabom, is to put large-scale irrigation, boost our yield, and increase the efficiency in terms of processing and milling, so that we can move from 2 metric tons to 3 to 4, and then increase the milling efficiency to about 70-80%, so that we can be able to sell rice competitively in the country. We focus a lot on inland valley swamps for rice, because we have close to about 500,000 hectares of those, and those ones also yield higher. For the same variety, the yields are higher. You could do multiple cropping if it's done well. You could integrate fish and all of that, and then really help prevent deforestation in the manner where farmers are doing slash and burn, shifting cultivation system. And so that's why we focused on that as well. Cassava is the second staple that we have in Sierra Leone. It's another big priority of ours. We are already, in terms of yield, we are above the regional average. We already export quite a lot, but we export just Gari. Actually, some of it comes to Senegal, Guinea, and all these places. Our goal now is to really industrialize cassava, where we're doing starch, pharmaceutical products, and all these things, food fillers. And we secured, we're in the process. Part of the pledges that we got from Islamic Development Bank is to really transform, to build a $40 million grant to be able to build that and do 2 proof of concept hubs to be able to do these industrial products for cassava. Mechanization, at the time we launched the compact or the feed salon program, we already had what we call a machine ring. Basically, these are mechanization hubs where we want private sector people to drive mechanization services to smallholder farmers. We've had a degree of success with that. I think one of the main lessons we learned is that we need to have the training, the education, the capacity, spare parts for all of these things. And so earlier this year, after realizing that we've embarked on training young people, both women and men. We trained close to about 200, a project actually funded by the African Development Bank, SLARIS program, trained close to about 200 young people on mechanization services. So this is how to run a truck, operate a tractor, maintain, repair, all of that, because we wanted to fill that gap that we observe in mechanization. Financing is another area where we've been very targeted at providing targeted financing for young people, whether it's a matching grant scheme. And also what we want to do, we know monies are very important, but I think more and more we're learning that you can get money, but if you don't know how to start a business, how to do a business, if you don't know how to go register a business, if you're a one-man show, you are the accountant, you're the CEO, you're this, you're going to stay there, you're not going to grow. And we want our young people to aspire to be, to grow in these. Infrastructure, a big part, I already talked about it. Our strategy is about building infrastructure in the areas. And so I would say for us, and some of the real impacts we're having, I haven't even talked about onions. When I took over as Minister of Agriculture, we had an onion crisis. We worked closely, this is a good example, working with the private sector, where these were the biggest importers of onion in the country. They bring in over 50% of the onion in the country. We have worked with them to transform them, and now over a quarter of the onions are coming. They are now producing, of what they do, they produce in the country. Hire over 2,000 women. They've gotten monies from the IFC, equity financing. These are some of the goals, and the price of onion is cheaper and it's available. These are some of the impacts that we're having. Women are employed. The communities are flourishing because of some of this work. So I know we don't have time. I could go on and on, but these are some of the strides that we're making in Sierra Leone, and I could take questions and expand on some of these. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister Paka. You mentioned the prioritization of budget reallocation, coordination with other ministries, securing private sector investment, and partnerships with organizations like AFDB as to key to Sierra Leone's agricultural transformation. Thank you so much for those insightful informations. Let's now turn to Rwanda, a country that has set an ambitious target under its Dakar II Compact, expanding irrigation, mechanization, and fertilizer production to transform agriculture and reduce trade deficits. Dr. Sirikere, if I'm saying it right, what have been the most significant shifts or innovation introduced in the past year to accelerate delivery on these targets in less than 5 minutes? 3 minutes.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, thank you, moderator, for this nice question. First of all, let me thank the AFDB to make this happening, to look forward of what our leaders has pledged and see where we are. So I just want to reflect that it all starts with the leadership. And Rwanda, I think, is championing. Once our leaders, commit, then we follow, and then we make sure that we deliver. So today we are here to share what we have been doing since the summit, and I will touch mainly on 3 major components, as you just said: affordability of input, irrigation, and mechanization. So as we are talking today, Rwanda is intending to be self-sufficient in production of fertilizer. We have put a plant that is now fertilizer blended. mainly specific to our site from the soils situation, because Rwanda is a very acidic place, and our blended fertilizer now also contain the lime inside our mineral fertilizer. So that we are having a production of 100,000 tons per year. So that's one of the achievements that is, currently appearing in the country. And second, what I want to touch is the distribution of the input. That has been an exercise for the last almost 10 years. Now, the distribution of input in Rwanda has been digitalized. As we are talking today, this is our season for planting, and most of the farmers now, they have seed and they have their input ready. So, which means that we try to catch up with all these layers of climate change. And when it comes to the resilience, I will touch mainly on our big project dealing with the irrigation since the summit. Rwanda now is operating on around 18,000 hectares irrigation, high-tech irrigation, where we are blending our PPP, private and the public. They engage together, and now those sites are planned to be the hubs of agri-production. So this will touch the market, as you understand. And also, how do you reach that is also the last point of mechanization. We were talking about the youth, and Rwanda now has looked at it to say mechanization should be one of the area that should attract our youth, because our old mom, dad, and uncles, they cannot merge in this venture. And now Rwanda has put in place what we call anchor farm mechanizations, which collect all the youth who are interested to invest and work closely with the government in mechanization, and then the government support them with de-risking, with the institutions, financial institutions, to buy tractors. And then the youth, what they do, they offer services to the farmers, because the youth don't have the land. But now if we want them to be involved, we have to find a way now that they can start to contribute and then start to understand how agriculture belongs to their hands. Indeed. So this is a very nice example that now we are seeing growing. And also we are looking at also on small scale irrigation, if I come back, where they are supplying solar systems with small scale farm holders. So lastly, I will touch to the market. Rwanda has now established what we call wholesale market, where now we are seeing it as offtake of what is being produced in those agri-business hubs. So we are seeing it that now engaged with the European Union and the Eastern Arab countries, where we'll be supplying meat and vegetables mainly. So these are the key areas that Rwanda now is championing, and we are seeing that the youth is the one will take the lead. Indeed. Because now high-tech is the ambitions, and as I said, from the leadership, the strategy for engaging youth has been finalized now, and then in these 4 years, agriculture sector is engaged to create job for 400,000, and this will be delivered by 2029.
Thank you.
So that's our situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Rwanda's example shows how ambition, vision, commitment, and value addition can converge to drive resilience and trade and impact. Let us now open the floor for a quick reactions and questions from the audience. Whoever want to react can raise their hand, and I'll bring the microphone. We will take 2 reactions.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Good morning. Honorable Minister, I don't know if you remember me, but we met last year at the Enough campaign launch in Sierra Leone. And in the launch last year, you made a strong commitment to particularly the children of Sierra Leone. You made the commitment from your government to address child malnutrition and child hunger in Sierra Leone. I wanted to ask this morning from your perspective, so for what are the actions or partnerships that you see as critical for sustaining this commitment and accelerating this fight? My name is Fedora Pierre-Louis. I'm with World Vision West Africa Regional Office. Thank you for being there and happy to see you again.
Have you heard the question?
Good morning. Is it on? Good morning. My name is Alex from Kenya. And as I listen to the minister from Sierra Leone, one thing is common, even from East Africa, where I come from. And this is always the high cost of our products. So you find that even as we produce our maize, our rice, and everything else, it is always comparatively higher than what we get from other countries. And therefore, the influx of, food from other countries is always very attractive. And even as I listen to the Africa Development Bank gentleman, this is the question that was coming to my head. What are you doing in Sierra Leone, and what can you do in Sierra Leone that can be replicated across the continent to make us competitive, to make, what they're producing in Nigeria to be competitive, so that our local farmers are able to access the market as opposed to the continuous influx of food that we are seeing coming in. And the same could apply to Rwanda. This is a common case. When you go to buy, for example, maize in Rwanda, in DR Congo, in Kenya, our prices are always higher, as opposed to what comes from Brazil and other countries. What can be done?
Thank you, sir. See?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Thank you for those questions. First of all, in terms of partnership, WFP is certainly one of our biggest partners when it comes to malnutrition, hunger, reducing food insecurity with children in Sierra Leone. In terms of actions, what we're doing, just one that off the top of my head. Can you hear me? Okay, good. Just a couple of months ago, we launched, and this for me, I really think is a catalytic sort of types of investments. If governments can find the monies to do it. We wanted to push the poultry value chain. We're in a scenario where we still import a lot of the eggs that come in. So for us to catalyze that, we said, for children ages 3 to 5 in primary schools, government in the school feeding program can give them 1 egg per day. We just did this, and we're working into the modalities of doing that. We did that because we know it will be a driver for both the value chain, but also for those outcomes for nutrition for children at that age very much. I think school feeding programs, being deliberate about the kinds of, I think, micronutrient fortification of crops and things like that. So for us, we have brought in yellow cassava that has vitamin A, orange flesh, sweet potato. These are some of the actions and programs that we have to be able to help address that. I think partnership is very key in all of that. Like I mentioned the BFP, but there are a lot of other partners that are in the space that we're working with at the ground level, because this has to be at a community level at some point, that NGOs that are doing this work that we're building a partnership with. Because of time, let me jump to Alex's question. I think it's a difficult one. Let me give this example. In Sierra Leone, we had said, knowing this, when we launched the strategy, we said one of the ways you do this is you say, whilst we're working domestically to increase our yield and all of that, and we're doing all that, we also have to pay attention to the trade. So we say, okay, we can put an import duty on rice coming in. The first year we put 5%. It went to Parliament and they approved. And then next year was supposed to be another 5%, and then so that all the way until we get to 20%. Because when I talk to investors, they want to know we're serious about that. We don't just are looking for cheap price, but we're serious about Then the parliamentarians saw that they were protesting in Kenya for food and all of that. And then they said, you are crazy, you Minister of Agriculture. If you think we're going to do this and increase the price of rice for the local people, they are going to, have you seen what's happening in Kenya? So it's a real trade-off and balance that we must strike, because the fact of the matter is things have been hard. And cheap food means people can afford what they want. As much as Minister of Agriculture, I would want for that cheap food to be the ones that we're producing in Sierra Leone. We've got to balance that with the reality that people, right? So we're still pushing. I think we'll come back. We've found a way to make sure our people know that, yes, we're getting cheap food now, but if there's the next pandemic and stuff, people will stop selling to us, we will suffer. And so we need to take some shock while also producing. And government needs to provide other subsidies, other cash transfers program to make sure it's coming in. But it's not a simple question. It's not a simple answer for governments to do, because their lives involve in some of these things.
Thank you, Excellency. I think Honorable. Your leadership between governments, partners, and private sectors to transform Africa's food system. We now turn to our second panel, bringing together major personalities from the private sector. Allow me to now introduce our distinguished panelists for the second panel, discussions on financing and private sector investment. Mrs. Sarah Mbago Bunu, Director of East and Southern Africa Division, International Fund for Agriculture Development. A round of applause for her. Dr. Godwin Atser, Country Director Kenya for Sasakawa Africa Association. With specialist at the World Bank. Mrs. Florence Kariuki, Partnerships Lead for East Africa MasterCard Growth Segments. You cannot hear me? Can you hear me now? Mrs. Bunu, Mbago Bunu, IFAD has a strong track
in supporting rural communities and smallholder agriculture. How is IFAD aligning its country strategies to sustain of compact implementation post-Dakar 2? 5 minutes.
So thank you, and thank you, moderator. Thank you to the African Development Bank for inviting the continuation of the Dakar 2 agenda, and also just for the leadership that was demonstrated under the former presidency of the bank in really setting targets. I think that's one of the key takeaways that IFAD really appreciated in the whole Dakar 2 effort. Setting very clear targets, signing the memorandum and launching the Feed 100 million agenda really clarified what those targets are for us. So that was very important. So I just wanted to emphasize that point. But since the Dakar 2 launch, and I think we were here amongst many other stakeholders 2 to 3 years ago, we have done a number of joint initiatives with the African Development Bank. One that springs to mind, for instance, is in Mozambique, where we have received 33 million from the African Development Bank as co-financing for a flagship program, Procava, to support cassava production and poultry value chains. We have also worked together on fragility, so we've been working together in South Sudan. That was a very impressive joint effort, where through parallel financing, IFAD is financing smallholder agriculture development program, which is linked to the African Development Bank initiative, where we're both supporting sorghum and fish in South Sudan, which have been underinvested for years in fragility. So that is some examples of how we're working together. In West Africa, of course, we deliberately supported the elaboration of the compacts for Ivory Coast and also in Nigeria. And I think in Central African Republic, we're the only financier now really positioned for the livestock pillar. And there we have invested 37.8 million. So collectively, we have mobilized over 500 million in trying to pursue the pursuits of the compact collectively. And IFAD's ambition through its IFAD 13 financing is to scale this up. Right now, we have a total of 300 projects touching 175 million Africans, and we want to scale that up so that we can meet the 200 million target. Thank you for that. If I can end by just saying that there's a couple of lessons that we have drawn from this exercise. And I think, yes, we have the targets, but we need more financing. Yes, we have the presidential councils, but we actually need them to become operationalized, particularly around access to land and access to collateral for young people. And then thirdly, we really want to make sure that the presidential councils for food incentivize financial institutions to de-risk finance and finance smallholder producers. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Godwin Atser, with your expertise in farmer training and extension scale of climate practices, the inputs. Let me rephrase that. With your expertise in farmer training and extension services, how is Sasakawa supporting the scaling of climate-smart practices and access to quality inputs across compact countries? What innovations in outreach or farmer engagement are proving most effective in ensuring women and youth to benefit from national agricultural investments?
All right. Thank you so much for inviting us to be part of this panel to share some of the things that we are doing as Sasakawa Africa Association. And also to thank the African Development Bank for convening this very important meeting. In Sasakawa, one of the things that we do, which is quite unique, is that we adopt a pluralistic extension approach, which combines a bit of digital extension and also terrestrial extension approaches, where we talk about our farmer learning platforms that we are known for. And combining that, we also add partnerships, because we know that reaching farmers, we need to work closely with partners. And that is what we have been doing. And in this space, we work closely with the Technologies for Africa Agriculture Transformation TAT, which was a flagship program of the bank to actually reach millions of farmers. Having said that, some of the things that we do is that through this approach, like the radio, we are very strong on that. We have so far reached more than 2 million people. But directly, we have been able to reach about 500,000 farmers. That is through direct extension contact with farmers. But with the radio, we have reached more than 2 million people in the last 2 years. At the center of our strategy is regenerative agriculture. So we prioritize innovations that put regenerative agriculture at the center. Linked to that is nutrition-sensitive agriculture innovations, as well as market-oriented agriculture. Because we believe that Africa should be nourished, but again, there should be money in the pockets of our farmers to do business and also to create jobs. Since the last 2 years that we were here discussing, with the support of our partners like the Islamic Development Bank, the African Development Bank, the Nippon Foundation, where we primarily get our support on a yearly basis for the last 40 years working in Africa, we have been able to do our work by reaching these farmers.
IT team on is cracking a bit.
Okay. Yeah. So I must also at this meeting be able to commend the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan that provided resources for us, and also the AFDB that gave us funding directly. Now, what are some of the innovations in data that we are taking to farmers? We recognize that climate change is very key and is a reality. So some of the things that we are doing is scaling out climate-smart varieties, and that we are doing quite well in states in Nigeria like Kano. But of course, we work across several African countries like in Ethiopia, Uganda, Mali, and Nigeria, and Benin, and Sierra Leone, and even Ghana. We are very strong on capacity building, so we work with the universities across Africa to see how we build the capacities of mid-career extension workers. By doing this, we ensure that we leave no one behind. So the youth and also the women are very key to us, and people living with disabilities. We pull them together and see how our interventions are impacting on them. In the last 40 years, I can confidently tell you that in Nigeria alone, we have about 4,000 jobs created. We support mechanization because we know that Africa must do agriculture differently, and therefore mechanization is key. And we serve as a bridge, bringing in Japanese technology to Africa to help transform the agriculture narrative on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. This to the presentation. Let me try this one. Can you hear me? Thank you.
Can you? Now moving to Mr. Mason Buri, lead financial sector specialist from the World Bank. He is part of the Department of Finance, Competitiveness and Investment. Mr. Buri, the World Bank has been a major supporter of agricultural transformation across Africa. How is the bank adapting its financing and policy instruments to support rapid implementation of the Dakar II delivery compacts, especially in fragile and low-capacity countries and contexts? What new partnerships or innovation is the World Bank exploring to deepen support for inclusive agri-value chains and enhance delivery mechanisms at the country level? 5 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Good, good. Thank you for your question and for inviting me, and much appreciate the African Development Bank for organizing this very topical panel. From the World Bank side, we are committed to supporting agricultural transformation across the continent. It's an engagement we've had, of course, for many years. However, since the Dakar II conference, we have really ramped up our engagement and commitment to the sector. We are launching our new AgriConnect initiative, which aims to double our support to the agriculture transformation sector over the next 5 years through 2030, and to reach support of 9 billion for agribusiness, additional 5 billion for agri-finance. So what are the pillars of this AgriConnect initiative that we have announced and that we'll be launching formally during our annual meetings? First of all, we are really moving to a much more unified One World Bank Group approach. I think those of you who know the World Bank know well we have kind of the World Bank part of the institution, which is public-facing, engaging on policy reforms, capacity building, support for matching grants, building capacity at the local level through co-ops and microfinance institutions and so on. That, of course, role will continue. However, it will be much more integrated with the support from our International Finance Corporation, the IFC, which is very much engaged on private sector investment and supporting guarantee schemes, risk-sharing facilities, adaptive credit lines, support for the rollout of new instruments such as leasing, warehouse receipts, index insurance. And we're also bringing in MIGA, which is a part of the institution that provides guarantees and insurance, particularly to bring in international and foreign investors. So that's one pillar of our AgriConnect initiative. The second pillar, we're very much focusing, for each country doing a heat map and arriving at a joint engagement program and targeting high potential value chains. I'll come back to that with a few country examples, which are value chains that are really transformative. And we think of this agenda, the agriculture transformation agenda, as essentially a triple wins agenda. Obviously, food security, food sovereignty, that's the theme we've been coming to throughout the forum. That's, of course, a pillar to both beef up production, availability, and affordability. But secondly is a job creation agenda, which is very much linked to agricultural transformation, where you still have 70 to 80% of employment in rural areas in agriculture, and that will continue, as well as, of course, agricultural transformation, not just in rural areas, but in processing zones, in urban settings. And thirdly, it's an economic growth driver. It's a driver to boost economic growth in different countries, help on the fiscal side, reduce import dependence and so on through this approach. So it's a triple win agenda, and this is where the focus on value chains is important. The second aspect is to promote integration on the continent. Obviously, we want to be exporting across all markets as much as possible from the continent, but we really want to promote more agricultural and regional integration. So, for example, here we're in Senegal, we're part of WAEMU, part of ECOWAS. How can we build those regional markets, have transport corridors be more along value chain corridors. That's another pillar. Fourthly, obviously, it's very much aligned with government commitments, and this is where the Dakar 2 conference was really pivotal, and we're aligning with that. And fifth is digital connectivity, digital tech, digital financial services, and how to harness the power of technology for agricultural transformation. This is, of course, a compact, the AgriConnect initiative we're rolling out in many countries in the continent, certainly in Senegal, but also in Niger, in Togo, Kenya, Ethiopia, Angola, and others. So including fragile contexts as well as contexts with low capacity. Maybe I'll spend briefly on the case of Senegal, where we are now launching our joint engagement plan, which is again a World Bank group engagement in Senegal. It's a very advanced context, and we are targeting 3 subsectors: livestock, cereal, and horticulture. It is very much aligned with the food sovereignty strategy of Senegal and the Senegal Vision 250. And we are looking to, on the financing side, to work across all the instruments I mentioned. And I also mentioned 2 additional instruments, which is on the role of the agricultural development banks. We believe they do have a role. We believe they can play an important role in both providers of finance, but crowding and other financial institutions. And there's a role for fintechs as well to provide digital credit and digital solutions for access to finance. We're also very engaged in Niger. We have launched a 10-year, what we call a multi-phase approach in Niger. We want to bring in 1 billion support for Niger across also key value chains. So I'll stop here for now. Thank you.
Working. Thank you, Mr. Buri. We will now turn to Mrs. Kariuki, Florence Kariuki, lead for East Africa MasterCard Growth segments. Mrs. Kariuki, you just have 5 minutes. So, MasterCard has been at the forefront of advancing digital innovation in agriculture. Through Community Pass platform, the company has sought to expand farmers' access to essential services. Could you share the tangible impact this has had on farmers' income and livelihoods? Building on this, MasterCard has joined forces with the African Development Bank and now the World Bank Group to co-share the MADE Alliance, MADE, with the ambition of providing digital access to 100 million individuals and businesses across Africa by 2034. Could you elaborate on how this initiative is mobilizing and the concrete benefits it aims to deliver for smallholder farmers and agri-food systems across the continent?
Thank you very much for this session. I would like to start with just a brief intro. back. In the growth segments, we are looking to drive digital and domestic relevance and drive they have invested in the Farmer Federation, which is a shift from the normal the normal work of AFDB, going and financing through the government to work with SMEs to be able to profile 250,000 farmers. And what we intend to do with this digital profiling is to showcase a proof of concept that can enable investment at scale for this farmer federation that is aggregating over 1 million farmer producer organizations to drive critical services like input, output, and credit. And we have also worked with Microsoft to work on high-speed digital connectivity for farmer producer organizations so that they can be able to be digitally skilled. I can see my time is up and the moderator is signaling me, but those are some of the use cases that we have been able to initiate under the MAID Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Kariuki. Thank you to all our distinguished panelists for those powerful insights. We've heard how financing, innovation, partnerships, and digital solutions can accelerate delivery and truly move us from pledges to plates. A round of applause for our panelists. I'd now like to introduce Mr. Richard Ofori-Mante, Director of Agriculture Development and Rural Finance Department at the African Development Bank, for his closing remarks. A round of applause for him.
Well, thank you. I think I need to be short. We've spent most of our time, but let me start with the initial. Your Excellencies, I think the Honorable Minister and Governor, I think they've stepped out. However, our development partners and all invited guests, esteemed colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've had an energizing conversation this morning, from the powerful reflections of our Minister and Governor to the concrete innovations shared by our partners. One message rings loud and clear. Africa is moving from pledges to plates. When we gathered here in Dakar in January 2023 for the Dakar 2 Summit, the world witnessed a turning point. Our leaders came together not to discuss, but to deliver. They committed to food and agricultural delivery compacts. They mobilized private will, and together with partners, they pledged over $30 billion to transform Africa's food systems. The African Development Bank made a bold commitment, $10 billion over 5 years. Today, I'm proud to say that we are firmly on course. Since Dakar 2, the bank has approved 144 agricultural operations worth nearly $5 billion across 33 countries. These investments are transforming irrigation systems in Ethiopia, driving mechanization in Ghana, strengthening seed systems in Rwanda, advancing agro-processing in Kenya, and boosting climate resilience in Mozambique and Malawi. We have scaled up our private sector agribusiness financing. The bank has achieved key milestones, highlighting new initiatives, approvals, and commitments for various private sector loans. The bank participated in its first sustainability-linked loan in the real sector, complemented with a blended finance solution to cover over 28 African countries and linking accountability with key performance indicators and sustainability performance targets in the fields of reforestation, farmer extension services, and gender empowerment. The bank helped address traceability issues in commodity value chains through a supply and core value chain financing solution aimed at aiding 45,000 cocoa farmers with sustainable agricultural production programs. We are advancing the special agro-industrial processing zones, SAPZ initiatives across Africa. The bank successfully extended and expanded its investments in the flagship Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones program, securing investments and mobilizing capital to support 18 projects spanning 27 sites in Africa. We are advancing agricultural and climate disaster risk financing in Africa. In 2024, the African Development Bank made significant strides in climate disaster risk financing and insurance, approving key projects in Malawi, Zimbabwe, Comoros, Djibouti, Somalia, and South Sudan through the Africa Disaster Financing Risk Program aimed at enhancing resilience and response capacity of the related countries to climate risk disasters. We launched a $500 million facility to unlock $10 billion in blended finance for smallholder farmers and agri-SMEs. It will expand access to credit, empowering women and giving youth entrepreneurs the capital they need to scale their investments. We have supported governments to operationalize presidential delivery councils, enabling the delivery compacts, ensuring that the delivery compacts are not just plans, but engines of delivery, driven by accountability at the highest level of state leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, The African Development Bank's commitment is unwavering. We said we would deliver $10 billion in 5 years, and with nearly $5 billion already approved in just 2 years, we are on track, we are on target, and we will deliver. But what excites me most is not the numbers. It is the transformation we see on the ground. Farmers are producing more. Women are breaking barriers to access finance and markets. Youth are building startups that are digitizing agriculture, using drones for precision farming, cutting post-harvest losses. Warehouses are rising, markets are expanding, regional trade is growing. The future is taking shape before our eyes. As we close, let us commit and recommit ourselves to the vision of Dakar 2, that Africa's food sovereignty is non-negotiable, that agriculture is not subsistence, but a thriving business, and that no child in Africa should ever go hungry.
Thank you.
Finally, I must highlight that the African Development Bank stands with you. We will keep pushing. We will keep investing. We will keep delivering. Together, we'll move from pledges to plates. Together, we'll build a secure, resilient, and dignified Africa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our distinguished guests. A round of applause for them. And a round of applause for yourselves. Thank you for coming today. Hope to see you next year.